Hey everyone, welcome back. I wanted to start today by saying this up front. The global boycott of the United States is still working. Whether you hear from the media or not, it's still making a real impact. In today's video, I wanted to give a bit of an update on where things stand right now. I have a report out of Vermont and another one out of New Hampshire. So for many of you watching from Eastern Canada, Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, these two reports are the direct result of your boycott. Well done, Eastern Canada. I also have another report out of Western New York, but this one is slightly different. It talks about a recent change when crossing by land, and it gives off a bit of a relaxed Canadians, you'll be fine, who cares if your photo is taken. I don't know, that's the vibe that I got from it. So stick around for that one. Today's backdrop comes from one of our viewers named Guillaume. He took this photo in the La Macasa region of Quebec. And one thing I always do when I get photos from places I've never seen before, I Google them and I learn about it. Canada is a massive country. It's not just about the major cities. And I'll be honest with you guys, I'm learning a lot about my own country just from starting this channel. So thank you for sending this over, Guillaume. I really appreciate it. Now, before we get into the reports, I want you to keep this headline in mind. This one came out from CNBC. We already know that CBP shares your data within its own departments and with ICE. But now, TSA will also be sending your details to ICE as well. That just adds another reason to the growing list on why people are choosing not to go to the US. Because now, you can simply be on a stopover, need to be rescreened by TSA, and suddenly be greeted by the brown shirt ski mask guys. So keep this in mind when we go through all of these reports. All right, let's get started.
A report from Democrats in the U.S. Joint Economic Committee says a drop in Canadian visitors is harming businesses in border states.
It highlights data points on travel from throughout the year.
Our James Maloney spoke with businesses today about the impact. And James, it's been a rough year for them.
Well, Brian, Liz, it's what we've been hearing from local officials all year. The relationship with Canada has soured. Inflammatory comments from President Donald Trump, coupled with steep tariffs, have really set the stage for the numbers that we're seeing today.
Kind of period pieces, period rooms.
This is the old Stagecoach Inn in Waterbury. This 19th century home became a bed and breakfast in the 1980s, and it's been that way ever since.
We get obviously people coming for outdoor recreation all seasons. We've got fabulous craft beer and craft spirits industry. You get people coming for history.
Krista Bowdish has been the owner for the past 3 years. Over the course of this one, she's facing a challenge.
It does impact your ability to provide an overall compensation package.
Bowdish says normally about 15% of her clientele are from Canada. That's dropped to about 1%. It's
15% down to about 1%. Let me show that Antonio Banderas meme again, because that's really how I feel. Now, it might not sound like much, but don't forget, international tourists spend more than locals when they go on vacation, and we also stay longer. So the revenue loss is actually bigger than most people think. A lot of you have told me since I started this channel that you canceled your 2, 3, and even 4-week holidays to the United States. Domestic tourism is not going to make up for that, especially when you consider that the paid time off isn't mandatory in the US. Which is something I guess Trump didn't think about when he said he does not need anything from Canada.
Believed remarks from President Trump have contributed to the decline. Other businesses say they're seeing relief, especially with the holidays giving them a boost.
We consider them part of us and they consider us part of them, so.
No, not anymore, at least for me. Whenever I hear a US citizen say this, it just makes me realize they really do not see the real impact of the damage being done. And I'm honestly starting to hate it when people keep referring back to history. Sure, it might have been in the past, but this, in my opinion, is a breakup with the country. If you agree with me, let me know down in the comments. And if you agree with me and you're not subbed yet, help out the channel by hitting the subscribe button below. Or subscribe if you're just here for the cat. I'm sure you're going to be hearing her in this video.
That's been working out pretty well, but we've seen most of our regulars coming down, the same families that we've seen for years.
Closer to the border, Jay Peak Resort reported fewer visits for golf over the summer. But with heavy snow arriving this winter, the crowds are staggering. But they're paying more to make snow after new tariffs were slapped on steel.
Still tabulating what that increase is, but it's double digits. It's probably a 10%, 11%, 12% hit.
And data is showing the statewide impact. A new report from Democrats on the U.S. Joint Economic Committee shows a 28% decrease in passenger cars crossing the border into Vermont from the start of the year to November. Meantime, the Vermont Agency of Commerce and Community Development says credit card spending by Canadians was down 49% between January and September.
Now, this is a stat I love to see. Why? Because this is where it hurts them the most. we might see 30 to 40% fewer cars heading south. But in my opinion, the border crossing numbers are hard to use as a real indicator, because some Canadians are going down to visit family or for work trips. But actual spending being down by under 50%, or just under 50%, that's a huge indicator that US businesses' bottom lines are still hurting. I mean, I did a report last month where a business owner or a tourism official, I can't remember, but he was literally pleading for people to spend $20 when they stop by. You know things are bad when you're begging people for $20.
Last month, Governor Phil Scott met with Canadian leaders in Newfoundland. There, Quebec's Minister of Economy, Innovation and Energy said the relationship between the U.S. and Canada is vital.
Our trade links with our Atlantic partners are really important. We're talking about $17 billion Canadian dollars a year. So it is paramount to us.
And last month, the Trump administration said that they would be rolling back tariffs on some food products, but it's unclear how much that could improve the tourism numbers here at home.
Tariffs rolled back or not, is not going to help get us back to your state. Not at all. Now let's take a look at the report out of New Hampshire.
Jane, some Granite State businesses get a good part of their revenue from Canadian tourism. One company says a Canadian customer told them they were hesitant to cross the border because of political tension. The Joint Economic Committee report released by Democrats blames the drop in tourism on tariffs, repeatedly broken off trade talks, and President Trump's general approach towards Canada.
Why can't they just say the 51st state? I would honestly have a little bit more respect for this report if it was just acknowledged.
The report says from January to October of this year, the number of cars crossing the U.S.-Canada border is nearly 20% lower than the same time last year. Mount Washington State Park officials say they've seen, quote, a noticeable decline in Canadian visitation. The report also estimates 75 to 80% fewer Canadians at Motorcycle Week in Laconia, a major annual event that brings in close to $100 million.
Okay, I'll be honest, I know nothing about this motorcycle event, but maybe some of our viewers have attended in the past. Let us know in the comments. When you're talking about 75 to 80% fewer Canadians going to an event that generates $100 million, you can bet your ass that Canadians made a huge chunk of that revenue.
Solomon's store is a family-run grocery less than a mile away from the northern border. The owner says the drop in Canadian visitors is keeping him on his toes.
It certainly is a source of anxiety for business owners. I mean, we've been here for 103 years, so we've been around for a long time through a lot of different things. But as I said, groceries are inherently a small margin business, so any kind of stuff like that is, affects how you forecast, how much you invest in your business, how many people you hire, how many hours you put on the schedule. I mean, that stuff's all related in small rural areas like this.
WMUR has asked the White House for a comment on the report, but have not heard back just yet.
Good luck getting a response from the White House. Trump does not care about the border states or what's happening to them when it comes to tourism. He simply doesn't give a shit about you. Now, this business has been saying that he's been operating for 103 years. That's a long time. They survived a lot of major events over the last century. But what's happening in 2025? This is something that our two countries have never gone through before. And this could be very well the year where the 103-year-old business has to seriously decide whether it shuts its doors or not. I say this because I keep hearing many U.S. business owners claim that they've been through ups and downs like this before. But this is not like the past. And it's also not like the COVID years either. What really irks me is this attitude like everything will just go back to normal, that it's just a phase, and that Canadians will come back eventually. Well, not this Canadian. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me. Now, this last report comes out of Western New York. They talk about the impact on the potential social media requirements for tourists, as well as the increased scrutiny and the data that CBP will be demanding. I also want you to keep in mind this chart, the 2024 voting map results as you watch this report. New York might be a blue state, but that's a lot of red on the map as well.
And we're taking a live look tonight at the Peace Bridge Inspection Plaza here on our side of the border. In just a couple of weeks, new federal rules will go into effect there and elsewhere that will allow CBP officers to collect facial biometrics from all non-citizens who are entering or leaving this country, and Canadians will not be exempt. Meanwhile, the feds just announced yesterday plans to require all visitors from these countries who currently don't need to get a visa to enter the U.S. to provide a bunch of personal data, including their social media accounts, their email addresses, a list of family members, etc. Canada is not part of this.
Not part of the social media proposal yet. And I really want to emphasize on yet, because it feels inevitable that any of the past luxuries or so-called friendship agreements we had with the US, they will eventually be pulled. And honestly, in a strange way, I do hope they make it apply to Canadians as well. Maybe that will finally stop some of the Canadians who are still going south and make them realize, hey, this is not cool.
So as you can see, many of our closest allies are, like in the UK and most of Europe, Australia, Japan, 42 countries in all. The big question, what impact could this have on tourism to this country and our region? Of course, we benefit a lot from foreign visitors, especially up in Niagara Falls. Even before all this, the U.S. Travel Association predicted international arrivals this year would be down about 6.3%. It translates into billions of dollars in an economic hit. Rosanna Berardi is managing partner of Berardi Immigration Law, and she joins us live tonight to help make sense of all this. Rosanna, always great to see you. I want to start here with the impact on Canadians, who we, of course, work with a lot. I mentioned they're going to be subjected to facial biometrics. It says it's going to start December 26th, but it's going to take a while to actually get it up and running. I want to play for you some of the coverage from north of the border. Watch this.
Canadians traveling to the U.S. are facing new rules at the border.
Canada's included in the list now. We used to be exempt from almost everything.
The change is coming at a time when more Canadians are already opting not to travel to the U.S.
The adjudication at the border is a lot more thorough, a lot more detailed, and perhaps at times a lot more hostile.
If Canadians aren't happy about this latest change, there is something that they can do.
You can turn around and not enter the United States.
And of course, we are seeing some of that. So, Rosanna, look, you can make a strong argument that we should keep track of everybody who is coming and going in and out of this country, and that, getting a picture taken isn't too intrusive. But I think the worry here is that this will just be another thing that kind of feeds into the narrative that is keeping Canadians from visiting. How do you think this will be received and the practical impact of it?
So, really good question, really important story. To our neighbors to the north, we're really not going to even feel this happening.
This is exactly what I meant at the beginning of the video, when I said this person seems to be downplaying the need to collect your photos, your biometrics, and whatever other data they wanted to take. It's easy for you to say, Rosanna, because you're part of the country that is implementing these measures. But try to think of it from an outsider's perspective. Do you really think foreign tourists, not just Canadians, want to deal with the rude CBP officers, get harassed at the border, and feel like they need to constantly look over their shoulder while visiting your state? On top of that, now we need to get our photos and biometrics taken? Because everything I said is not fine for me. And I'm pretty sure it's not fine for a lot of people watching this right now.
Yes, December 26th is the rollout date. The Peace Bridge is likely to be one of the ports of entry that may have it first, but CBP is saying 3 to 5 years for this to roll out entirely. Now, in the olden days, 25 years ago, getting your picture taken would involve getting out of your vehicle, going inside, having a photo taken. But today, when you cross the border, whether you realize it or not, there are cameras everywhere. And at most ports of entry, they ask you to scan your ID right when you pull up. You're not even going to notice that a photo is taken. So I think, yes, this is a change. Is it one that people will feel? Unlikely, and let's be realistic. There are cameras taking pictures of us absolutely everywhere.
And I will absolutely be realistic about this from north of the border. I'm not worried about the actual process of my photo being taken. You're downplaying of it, saying that we do not need to get out of our cars, that we will not even notice it, that everything will be fine. That sounds very used car salesman to me. What I'm worried about is what your government is actually going to be using the data for, especially now that we know that the data is being forwarded to ICE. So yes, this is a legitimate concern for people outside of your exceptionalist country.
Yeah, totally agree with that. I did a behind the scenes at the Peace Bridge a few years ago, and the amount of technology that is there would just blow your mind. But I do think it's fair for some people to wonder, and I've heard this from some of our Canadian friends, what about, kids in the back seats and passengers, and how is this actually, going to be implemented, and will it slow down what can sometimes already be an onerous thing to cross the border back and forth? You think that it will mostly be a smooth thing?
I think so. We might see a few hiccups and obstacles.
You really think so? The border is already an issue without this new stupid photograph and biometric process being rolled out. This is just going to add more excuses for CBP to scrutinize people on their way in. It might not be a big deal to you. You're a US citizen, and you have the right skin color, being white. So do not make a bold statement like that if you're not in the shoes of foreigners who actually have to deal with the bullshit at the border.
Initially, but I would gather based on the level of technology that the federal government is using, it should be pretty painless. And whether they capture everybody individually or as a whole coming across, I think once this gets rolling, we won't even notice it. So
let me know in the comments. Do you think this new photograph and biometric requirements starting on the 26th will barely be noticed? Or do you think CBP will start using it as leverage? And even more importantly, do you think the government will weaponize that data? Now I'm going to fast forward a bit because we're already past the 15-minute mark. But this lawyer goes into a little bit more detail on the social media topic, which international viewers, you're probably going to want to pay attention to this. And to be honest, Canadians, if I were to place a bet, I would say if this social media policy does get implemented, it will eventually apply to Canadians down the road. I'll put $100 on it right now.
Intention that they're going to require folks to turn over 5 years of social media accounts, a lot of personal information about their family members. Again, it doesn't apply to Canadians, but it does apply to a lot of people who come here, maybe visit Niagara Falls, and we rely on the money that they bring. Do you worry this will be seen as a negative and will have a negative impact?
Well, I definitely think that this measure is part of the puzzle and part of the Trump administration messaging that if people want to come to America, it's going to be more difficult. The campaign won on immigration and immigration solely, and they have been gangs a-blazing for the last 12 months now since January. So really, with this social media policy, this impacts countries that traditionally have low rates of overstays, of criminals, really friends of the United States. And it essentially flies in the face of, hey, just come in with your passport, because now it's asking for a lot of things. First of all, it's dismantling a website and making everything on a mobile app. 5 years of social media history, 10 years of your email addresses. I certainly could not remember those. Who your neighbors are, who your friends are, family, a selfie. This is very overreaching. Again, it may chill travel to the United States.
You can go ahead and tell your local domestic viewers that this may quote-unquote chill travelers to the United States. But as someone who has traveled to your exceptionalist country, this is a solid roadblock for me when it comes to supporting your economy. It's not the only roadblock. There's probably like 5 or 6, maybe even 10 of them. But trust me, there's a lot of them. And this is just adding to the bunch.
Because elderly individuals may not have a smartphone that's equipped with an app. But it's part of the broader messaging. We've seen international students go through this. We've seen the H-1B reciprocants. There's now a $100,000 fee. This is consistent with the Trump administration's messaging of America, you can come, but we're going to put you through the ringer if you want to get in.
Immigration attorney Rosanna Berardi, thanks so much for helping us understand these changes. We'll be following them as we actually learn how it's all implemented. Thank you.
I don't need a law degree to tell me that if this social media policy gets implemented, it's a huge privacy issue. And it will not just chill tourism. It will destroy the U.S. tourism industry. Anyone outside of the U.S. can actually see this. But I wanted to show everyone this because we're still getting the same message. Everything is fine. Come visit. Come spend your money. Come in and enjoy the exclusive discounts for the goofily accented people up north.
If you come from Canada with a Canadian driver's license or a passport, or you use that goofily delightful Canadian accent, we'll give you a 30% discount.
Seriously, fuck that guy. I know this video went on a bit long, but I really wanted to emphasize that our efforts are still making a huge impact. And at the same time, to point out that our concerns continue to be downplayed. If you are a regular on my channel, you already know I don't take to the gaslighting lightly, and I will continue to call it out whenever I see it. Alright, that's it for today's video. If you're still here, I appreciate you watching the whole thing. And if you are new here and found any value in what I shared, help the channel out by hitting the subscribe button. I thought the co-host was going to be loud today, but it turns out she was just tired. This is where she ended up while I was recording. Have a good day, everyone, and I'll catch you in the next video.